Hey YouTube, y'all already know who it is. I am the one and only Damon Moody. I also go by Kashmere Majesty. Sometimes I go by Red Riding Hood. I'm back again with another live video. And in today's live video, we're going to get back into Rest in Power, The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin by Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin. And all right. Sabrina came to Stanford for the first time late at night on Thursday, March 8th, driving in with her family. I could see the pain in her face, but I could also see the strength. And when I told her we had to try to figure out how to get justice for Trayvon and get an arrest for the guy who killed him, I could also see determination to do exactly that. We were both very nervous, but we told each other, let's tell the truth. Let's tell what we know. Let's tell who Trayvon was. Let's let America know who Trayvon was. We were both still torn up, level, and on brink of a breakdown. And every interview Sabrina would do, at least in the beginning, she would do with a box of tissues. But we also knew that we had to hold it together and be strong for Trayvon. The next morning, we met the media in our hotel, then went to the Seminole County Clerk of Courts, where Ben Crump filed a public records lawsuit on our behalf against the Stanford Police Department demanding the release of the 911 tapes. At the courthouse, a reporter showed us a photo of a dark-haired man at an Orange County jail. This is his mugshot. The reporter told us he's been arrested before. What? I had been told by the Stanford police that the killer not only had no arrest record, but was squeaky clean. The picture the reporter was showing us, along with the arrest record that she had unearthed, showed that the killer had been detained by police in 2005 for battery of a law enforcement officer and resisting arrest with violence. I told y'all it's a cover up. That's why they didn't allow them to see the body. And I feel like a lot more had happened. I do. I'm sorry. I don't know for sure because I don't live in Florida. I definitely wasn't around Florida, but just by me reading and by other instances where people expose the crazy shit that happened, just me thinking in my head and reading this, I feel like a lot was covered up. In 2005 for a battery of a law enforcement officer and resisting arrest with violence. It was the first time we had seen a picture of the man who had shot Trayvon, and now not only did we have his picture in the mugshot, no less, we will also soon have his police record, which Crump easily obtained through the county's clerk office, all of which showed that he was not squeaky clean. Later that same day, we met the media outside the Stanford Police Department, our attorneys Ben Crump and Natalie Jackson, and for the first time in public, Sabrina and our son Gerard. Crump spoke first, angrily demanding the 911 tapes. He held up a copy of the killer's arrest record. We confirmed that George Michael Zimmerman had a police record and the police lied to this family. Crump continued, they lied to them when they said George Michael Zimmerman was squeaky clean. And Mr. Tracy Martin will tell you in just a second, they said this was one of the reasons why they weren't arresting him. He was arrested in 2005 for resisting arrest with violence and battery on a law enforcement officer. These are violent crimes. He had propens- a propensity to be violent. Trayvon Martin was squeaky clean. He had never been arrested. He was a kid with a baby face who everybody said always was always smiling and was always a happy-go-lucky kid, but yet they are trying to cover up for this adult and sweep this under the rug. So this family just can't understand why the police is lying to protect this homeowners association loose cannon while they're trying to cover this up, why they are trying to protect him and not get to the truth of the matter as to why their son was shot and killed while he was coming home with a bag of Skittles and George Michael Zimmerman had a gun. The 911 tapes will show, Crump said at last, it's going to be reverberating. One of the reports asked Crump why we just didn't wait for the process to unfold since the police are saying that the investigation was ongoing and information would be forthcoming. If your child had been shot down and all you wanted was answers, how long do you wait? Crump shots back. How long do you wait when there's this mound of evidence saying this guy just killed your child and all your child had was a bag of Skittles? He had a gun. He had a history of violence. This was their child. This is their hope for the future, and he's gone. Cohen's right about the media, and he and our media relations expert Ryan Jillison's strategy of keeping our case alive by taking it to the media would pay off in ways that we could imagine. The announcement of the killer's arrest record became news around the world. We started paying attention to certain journalists who picked up on the story with particular care and ferocity. One of them was Jonathan Capehart in the Washington Post. We hadn't met him at this point, but we felt like we knew him. He said things with a directness and eloquence that we didn't have, and that echoed in me and expressed the still uncertain feelings in my own soul. As an African American, this case was personal, Jonathan Capehart wrote in one column. The killer of an unarmed black teenager doing nothing more than returning to where he was staying on a rainy evening had to be held accountable in some way. Ending life should not be taken so easily or cheaply. I wrote more than 60 pieces seeking justice for Trayvon as if my life depended on it, because one day it might. Another African American journalist, the New York Times, Charles M. Blow, who had two sons just like Sabrina and I had before Trayvon's death, wrote, There is a fear that sees me whenever my boys are out in the world, that a man with a gun and an itchy finger will find them suspicious. That passions may run hot and blood run cold. That it might all end with a hole in their chest and hole in my heart. That the law might prove insufficient to solve my laws. That was a burden of that is the burden of black boys in America and the people that love them, running the risk of being descended upon in the dark and caught in the crosshairs of someone who crosses the line. At our March 9 press conference, Natalie Jackson said that what's so important about us finding out the criminal history of George Michael Zimmerman, uh, it is important because it gives you a indication of one, you have a person with a propensity toward violence, or at least the importance of the propensity towards violence. She said that the police had investigated Trayvon within 24 hours of his being shot. But even though the Sanford police had sophisticated computers and database linked to the FBI record searches, they didn't seem to have investigated the man who killed our son. In this case, one of two things happened. She said either the investigation of the shooter was never done, or two, the investigation was done and there was a decision made to withhold this information from the family and the public. Now, why? That's the question. That's the big elephant in the room. Trump once again showed the media the killer's arrest record and said, "We just simply went to the Orange County Clerk of Court public records." He stated the killer's name and birthday and said, charged with a third-degree felony in 2005, resisting officer with violence, charged with battery on a law enforcement officer, third-degree felony, and so the police had this. So they knew about his propensity of violence, but yet just choose not to even consider that when they lied to this family saying he was squeaky clean. Later at the press conference, Sanford Police Chief Bill Lee responded. According to the local television news report, Lee admitted on Monday that his investigators took Zimmerman's word that he had a clean record and didn't find out about the arrest until days after the shooting. Lee had insisted that they were doing a thorough investigation, but we wonder why it had taken so long for them to mention this huge piece of information. Although the charges against the killer were eventually dropped, Crump told the media his propensity toward violence remained. They should have arrested George Zimmerman, he said. The reporter interrupted. Miss Sabrina, she said, we haven't heard much from you. This is your son. What is your reaction to the fact that your son is no longer here and it was shot and killed by the man with at least a history of violence? And with that, Sabrina Fulton standing beside me in her dark business suit and purple blouse, always purple for strength and positive energy, began to shake, began to cry, and finally, for the first time in public in this case, began to speak. When I pressed the police begging to know why they hadn't made an arrest, they claimed that the person they brought in that night was clean, sweet clean, as they had called him, and that he had taken criminal justice classes, which seemed to give him some kind of credibility. But the streets were offering different information. The news reports were multiplying and then testifying. Reuters reported a rumor that superiors had quashed an investigator's intent to charge him and had already made the rounds in the black community, says Zelma Williams, the only black member of the five-person Sanford City Commission. People are getting suspicious, saying we knew that was going to happen based on history, Williams said in an interview. After our first press conference with Sabrina on March 9th, Ms. Williams went to the police chief's office with a community activist. We said, "Look, Chief, last time I was here, I told you a train was coming down the tracks and it was going 50 miles per hour," she told Reuters. I said, "It's going 150 miles an hour now and it doesn't have any brakes." It was a train, all right, a very fast train gathering steam, and we were on the back of it, and we would soon be stoking the engine with our media appearances, one show after another, until you could feel the momentum gathering beneath our feet as we moved forward with our attorneys, our media expert, and the growing number of people who came to our side in support, particularly when it came to 911 tapes from the night Trayvon was shot. We knew there were 911 tapes. I had already heard parts of them at the police station the day after my son was shot. But rumors were now going around Stanford about the parts of the tapes that I hadn't heard. Sanford is a small city and everyone knows one another. Some of the rumors trace back to people who supposedly worked at the 911 call center, or so the attorney Natalie Jackson and her mother, Miss Oliver, had heard. There were also tapes of non-emergency calls that had been made that night, what included calls between the killer and the police, which some people in Sanford were now talking about. Their old tapes apparently revealed that the neighborhood watch volunteer was told not to follow Trayvon and to wait for the police to arrive before doing anything, while the neighborhood watch captain told the police that he was following the suspect. He supposedly empathized two facts. The suspect seemed suspicious, and he looked like he was black. These rumors seem to be turning the story of our son's shooting from a mystery to a conspiracy. People were saying that the tapes might show that the killers racially profile our son, that our son was followed and shot because he was black. This is what the attorney Natalie Jackson told Ben Crump and what Crump told me. Now, more than ever, we realize we need to hear those 911 tapes in full for ourselves. We had to take our fight for the tapes to the next level. We continue our strategy of using the media to bring as much light and and heat to the case as we could. In and out of airplanes and cars, one television studio after another, the strategy was starting to pay off. As the news spread about Trayvon's shooting, more people began to come to our side. These were people we didn't know, and some of them we would never know, but they kept offering support. Along the first was a law student named Kevin Cunningham. He was a 31-year-old redhead Irish American studying law in historically black Howard University. The only race I believe in is the human race, Kevin Cunningham would say when people expressed surprise that a white man played such a key role in his case. He didn't know Trayvon and he didn't know us personally, but he had been drawn to the story through media accounts. Cunningham first heard about our case on the Howard University fraternity website that ran a short piece of that began. A young black kid with a bag of Skittles was gunned down by a neighborhood watch volunteer on a wet Central Florida night. He read the piece and felt himself becoming increasingly outraged by the details. He left the Howard State site and logged onto change.org, a website where people can start petitions for whatever causes they choose. Cunningham started a change.org petition, prosecute the killer of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, Sanford Police Chief Bill Lee, U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, Florida's 4th District State Attorney Angela Corey. I'm writing you today to call for justice for Trayvon Martin and his family. Trayvon Martin was a 17-year-old, was only 17-year-old when he was gunned down by the neighborhood watch captain George Zimmerman. All Trayvon did was go to the store to get his brother some Skittles. According to police, George Zimmerman admitted to the shooting and killing of Trayvon Martin. Why has he not been charged and his case been handed over to prosecutors? Trayvon Martin was unarmed when he was shot by Zimmerman. All he had in his hands was some candy when he was followed and approached by Zimmerman, who ignored instructions from police not to confront the young man. Please uphold justice. Sincerely. It was a long shot that the online petition would actually move the case forward, but it sparked a huge buzz online and the signatures started adding up. On the first day, 100 people signed the petition, but the numbers kept coming: 200, then 300, then 1,000, then 2,000, and more. Some of the signatures were friends of Trayvon's and others were friends of ours. But most, like Kevin Cunningham, didn't know us, only knew the story. Within a few days, the number of people who had signed Kevin Cunningham's petition to demand justice and an arrest had grown to 10,000, and Change.org and Kevin Cunningham's transferred the petition to my name and Sabrina's so that we could take the lead on the campaign. Within 2 weeks, 1,000 signatures would be added to the petition every few minutes, making it the first successful petition in Change.org history at the time. It would soon have 2 million signatures. It didn't suddenly lead to an arrest, but it kept growing the sense of outrage over the lack of one. The train that Velma Williams had said was going 150 miles an hour was now speeding even faster. Anger was also building every day more and more. A rally in Sanford's Fort Mellon Park was planned for March 22nd. People from Sanford and around the country were calling the mayor's office and insisting on an immediate arrest. The NAACP was demanding that Stanford Police Department Chief Bill Lee, who said that there was not significant probable cause to make an arrest, be immediately fired. And U.S. Representatives Corinne Brown, an African American woman whose district included the city of Sanford, was telling the media, "We want him arrested as we speak now." All right, y'all. So a lot of these chapters are pretty long, and I just wanted to get that out the way because I didn't finish it the last time I did a video reading this book. Now that I got out the way, I am going to stop right there because I am going to finish later on. Y'all like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, be notified, and I'm going to get back to you on the next video.